Required exercise 5, take 3. You will have an existing sketch that you will be asked to do some things to. First thing we're going to do is revolve. This is the revolve tool. Grab this face and that face. That's 2 faces to revolve. It then says, about what axis do you want to revolve me? And we want to revolve around this center line there. Well, it will be the center of the cylinder once we've successfully pulled off that revolution, which I just did. Notice that you can do this in portions of the full revolution. This is only doing 30 degrees, but we want the full 360. Press check, and I get my first part over here, part 1. Next step is to do an extrusion here with these parts on the side. I'm going to click extrude and shift over here so you can see. When I do this extrusion, it's asking me what faces I want to extrude, and I do want to extrude this, and I do want to extrude that thing behind my part, but I can't grab it. So I'm going to hide part 1, and then I'll grab that, and this, and that. Everything but the inside circle. It asks for us to extrude this to a thickness of 0.25 inches. And check. Bring back my other part, and I am making progress. Now that I look at it in this isometric view, I do notice that I have extruded this outwards, and that is not what it looks like in the drawing. So I'm going to double click on extrude and change blind to symmetric. That is going to extrude it out and in symmetrically about the plane and make it nice and symmetric on my cylinder. All right. Next step is to select this face right here, the one that I just made, and I'm going to do some drawing on it. Draw on that plane right there. It makes a little plane for me, I can see, but when I say view normal to sketch plane, I can't really see that very well anymore. Okay, there is a drawing that is shown here, which has 2 circles centered on the face of that cylinder. So that's why I'm making sure when I use my circle tool that the center, that coincident line pops up with that center point, so then I know that it's centered. They all share the same center. Then I'm going to make some lines. I want 2 vertical lines that are coincident with the circle. So there's a vertical line. It goes right about to the top of that thing. And then there's a horizontal line and another vertical line that I would like to be coincident and vertical, but I was only able to make it coincident. So now I'm going to go back and say, how about we make that vertical as well? I am also going to apply some tangent constraints here just because I know that's going to make it look smooth and nice. Great. And then the last thing they ask for in this sketch is for us to assign some dimensions. To this smaller circle, the diameter is 0.12 inches. For the larger circle, the diameter is 0.4 inches. And the distance between the center and this line right here is defined as 0.6 inches. Nice. I am going to save this because it is exactly what I want after I move that over there and that over there. Nice little sketchy poo. Now this sketch is going to be extruded. Let me put it back in my isometric view, which I prefer. And I am going to extrude, make an extrusion with my new sketch that I made. That part, and that part, and that part. Everything but that hole is just, this is perfect. And so those are all the faces I want to extrude. It has asked me to extrude a total of 0.3 thickness, but with 0.25 coming out at me and 0.05 going into the existing cylinder. So to do that, I will need a second in position. The second in position they currently have set at 1 inch, but I have been asked to make that go inwards, 0.05. So notice it's going out 0.25 and in 0.05 for a total thickness of 0.3 inches. And that's exactly what I was asked for. Next step is to put some holes in the going downward here and downward here. So we're going to look at this from the top view to make some circles that need to be exactly in the center of this right here. So I need a circle right in the middle here. Since there's a line there, I can go right there, and when that midpoint pops up, I'll be able to know that this is exactly in the center of that face. But over here, there is no line. I will make one. The line shall be from the midpoint of that top of the face to the midpoint of the bottom. Now that line is in the center of that rectangle. If I grab my circle tool and go somewhere near the middle of it, see that midpoint? Look, no midpoint there, midpoint there. Click, make my circle there. The circle is now perfectly centered on that face, both horizontally and vertically. The circles have been asked to be a diameter of 0.12. And then I will click this circle, get out of my dimension tool, click this circle and that circle and make them equal. And I'm done with that sketch. Now I will look at it back from the isometric view just because I love to see it where all 3 dimensions are factoring into what I'm seeing. We are now going to make those holes. This one goes down 0.7. So solid remove is what's going to get me a hole feature. The face that I want to remove is that little guy right there, and they've asked for that to go down 0.7 inches. Great. And now over here, my sketch is hidden, so I can't find my little circle. Grab my circle. I'm going to extrude that also, but I'm going to remove. And it's like, will you tell me again what you wanted to extrude? That little, because that's a construction line, it's actually cutting, not a construction line, it's cutting that into 2, but no problem. I'll just grab both of them. And it says that this one's going down 0.41. All right, so maybe you can see that that's there. Oh, and I believe this reminds me that I've skipped a big step. So when I look here at translucent, you can see those 2 holes are there, but I've missed like a huge step here, which is another hole that we need to place on here. I skipped this step. So we are actually going to make another hole that goes all the way through the center of the cylinder. I found that in order to do this, I need to go to this extrude, no, wrong one. I need to go to this part right here, which is, I think, extrude 2. Yeah, extrude 2. And I'm going to make it, instead of adding to the existing part, I'm going to make it a new part, and that gives it a different color. What that does is it allows me to hide it so I can see my darn sketch, which is also hidden, and I can grab it. So this is the circle right here that I want to make a hole with. So I'm actually going to remove that part using this little guy right there. And instead of extruding it blindly, and putting in a dimension for how deep it should go, I am going to use a fun tool called Up to Face. And now whatever face I select will determine how far that hole goes back. So since I selected that ring right there, the hole will go all the way back to that ring. And I press check mark. And now when I look at it on translucent, you can see that a hole has been made right there. Okay, now I'm going to put all these 3 parts together by using a Boolean operation, which you will likely not need to do because you haven't separated them, but now they're all one part. And if I click on it and click right here, I should see that my volume is 1.647 inches, but it's 1.651 this time. And I don't know why that is, because it's been the same 1.64 every other time I've done it. But we're just going to go with this, because I do not want to run out of time on this screencast for the third time. All right, so I would check your volume at this point. It should be 1.647 inches. Like I said, mine wasn't. But all we have to do now are these fancy fillets, which I'm going to do in 3 parts. So here's our fillet tool. And when you select it, it's like, what do you want to smooth out? I'm going to do the cylinder first. Select that guy, it smooths it out, but not with a radius of 0.2. We've asked to do 0.05, which just is a tiny smooth. And then I'm going to select that cylinder right there, that circle right there, and it'll smooth that out. When I select that, it'll smooth that out. When I select that, it'll smooth that out. When I select this, it'll smooth that out. And it really quickly starts to get kind of confusing with all those circles selected. So what I have there are all the edges of the cylinder. And I'm just going to say check mark and be like, and check that guy out. Yeah, so all the cylinder edges are smoothed out. Now we're going to do the same thing over with the part on the left side. I'm going to click the fillet tool again, change it to 0.05. And now I'm going to select every part of this left part except for the circles. Do not select the circles. We're even doing these inside parts. If you have this tangent propagation selected, it gets kind of smart and it's like, oh, you like that one? Let me go ahead and propagate that along all lines that are tangent to it. So I think I got them all. I'm just going to press check mark so I can see what's going on. And I see that every square connection there has now been rounded. All right, now I'm going to do the same thing over here, but I'm going to click fillet again because it just gets really confusing when you have a lot going on in the same one. So here, once again, all of these, oh, but I got to change it to 0.05. All of these square lines, do not select the circle, but select everything but. It should be changing this right now, but I think the internet is having a little bit of an issue here. So I'm going to press check mark and see what happens. It usually changes it as you go, but it's moving a little slowly. Oh, that's nice. Where did my hole go? This hole right there. Maybe that's why it didn't have the correct volume, because I didn't successfully extrude that. Which one is that? Hey, if I run out of time, I'm totally done here. Okay, this is the one that is solid, remove, and that is the one that is what they're calling the left, which is 0.7. ¿Por qué? Merge with all. Aha! There it is. All right, and now let me see if it goes back to that might have been why it had a different volume. 1.640. Yeah, I think that was that hole didn't properly extrude or didn't save, so that's why it was a little off before. All right, it's done. Thank you very much.